All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to use this prone Cybex leg curl. In terms of getting the machine set up, there's not a whole lot that you need to do, except making sure that this input pad, where your calves will meet, is not all the way down. We actually want it all the way up above the numbers, so as high up as it will go, above setting number 1. Then your other setup is selecting your weight. And in terms of getting yourself set up on the machine, this one can be a little tricky for some people, especially if you have some kind of a knee issue going on. So I'm going to show you how to most safely and effectively get into this machine in 2 different ways, and you can decide which one's best for you based on what you're comfortable with. The options include either you figure out what weight you're going to use. Let's say I'm going to use 2 plates. Then I use my hand to move this up so I can place this extra weight around this silver thingy, the place that you select the weights, which then allows the weight to rest on that with a little bit of a gap, which now means that when this is all the way down, it doesn't actually pick the weight up until you get up a little bit further, just because this comes down pretty far and can put some strain on your back and on your knees. So you can either put that in there as kind of a gapper, and that will make it so that this part of the machine is just kind of free to move until the weight picks up. Then when you get on it, you lay down, and then you're not being strained to come all the way down here. You can kind of pretty easily bend this first little bit and then commence with your set. The other way to set this up is you pick your weight, and when you're ready to get on it, as you kind of come down, your thighs rest on this pad here, and then as you descend, you actually curl your knees a little bit so that we're not going all the way down here, because that to me even feels like a strain on my back and on my knees. So then you just would not go down below here on your range of motion. If you feel like you can handle that and manage that while you're doing this, then you're free to do things that way. However, if you feel like it's safer for you, do what I showed you before, where you kind of move it with your hand and place this little gapper in here. Now, once you're set up on the machine, we got the handles down here nice and secured. What you want to do is you want to initiate by engaging your core to push your pelvis down into these pads, because we want to avoid, if you watch, I'm going to do it wrong right now, we want to avoid your butt coming up like this. And in an effort to do that, if you engage your core and push your pelvis down, it makes it harder, or you can notice when your pelvis wants to start to come up, which means I won't get as much range of motion in terms of how far my knees bend, but that's okay. So you want to initiate by pushing down here, engage the hamstrings. My intention is to narrow the angle between my lower leg and my upper leg, as if I'm trying to pinch some sort of a lacrosse ball or a baseball in between the back of my knee. That's what I'm thinking about doing with my body that happens to be attached to that input pad. Focusing on contracting my hamstrings the whole time. In terms of that range of motion, if you have the gapper right here, you can come down until it taps the gapper. However, if you don't have that, just come down to where you start to feel like it wants to move your pelvis around, and that's where we don't go beyond. Using that proper, nice, smooth, slow tempo. And the one other setup thing we need to make sure of, now that it's occurring to me to remind you of this, is my kneecaps are just off the end of this pad. So I'm not slid way down here, and I'm not slid way up here. Kneecaps just off the end, which gets my knee in line with the axis back here so that I'm moving around the arc of the machine. That's an important setup thing to pay attention to. And then when you're done, if you have the gapper, you can just let it rest and then get up. If you don't have the gapper, you want to get on it in the same way that or get off of it in the same way you got on it, where you let it bend, or you let your knee straighten to, about here-ish, where there's still some slight bend. And then as you push your body up, you let the machine rest down. I'll show you again. If I'm doing my reps, nice and smooth and controlled, and then I'm done with my set, I control it down, and then as I get down to my knees, not quite straight, just outside of being straight, push your body up, then let the weight rest down, and then dismount the machine. And that's how you use this Cybex prone leg curl.